Okay, hey guys, how are you guys doing? Thank you for coming out to the SHPE ABC Women in Film, Women in Engineering Roundtable. We have this beautiful women right here that are going to be speaking on a little bit of their experiences in engineering. And yeah, should we start? So today what we're going to be doing is we'll have a few questions set up for the panelists, but this is more of a discussion than a panel, so you guys can freely speak with each other. Just like, I don't know if you guys have seen videos of like actress roundtables. Yes. That's kind of our inspiration today, so feel free to just talk with whoever. There's no order to speak. Yes. And there's no time limit. If we get to all the questions, that's great. If we have extra time, we'll go and open up the floor for questions, but feel free to speak everything you want to speak, pretty much. Yes. Okay, so first we're going to start with some introductions. Left to right. Yep. Yes. So first we have Dr. Selena Dozier, and then you can speak a bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Dozier. I am currently an associate lecturer here at UCF. I teach civil and environmental engineering, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I am a Floridian. I went to Florida A&M University, got my bachelor's in chemical engineering, and then went to the University of California at Berkeley for my master's in environmental engineering, and then University of Texas at Austin for my PhD. I like to, in my classes, talk about all the different places throughout the country that I've lived. After graduating from UT Austin, I did my postdoc at UMass Amherst, and then went to Arizona State to begin my teaching career, and I've been here at UCF for 6 years. I currently own a business called Trap Baby and Me, which is a music and movement program for babies and toddlers and their parents. And I currently am planning a festival happening in a week called the Orlando Kite Festival. So, all right.
You're busy.
A little bit.
Cool. Hi, I'm Veronica Perez. I currently work at Walt Disney World. I'm a construction field rep, and what that really means is that I help out manage a lot of construction projects on property. Currently, I'm at Bay Lake Tower, which is a lot of fun. We're doing the full renovation of the hotel rooms there, and we're halfway there through that, we call it sequence. There's 4 sequences, so we're halfway there through the whole building. So that's been really fun. My background, I did mechanical engineering for my bachelor's, and for my master's, I did an MBA at the University of Florida. So yeah, that's a little about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Holmes. I'm the owner of JK2 Scenic, which is the architecture, millwork, and theming company. So I do a lot of work out at Disney. I'm not in the hotel rooms, but I'm in a lot of common spaces. So I got my start, I'm a civil engineer graduate from the University of Florida. So I actually worked in land development, designing commercial properties all around the United States. And what is interesting in my career is I worked at 2 different engineering firms. One was a true civil engineering firm that had a lot of other disciplines. Then I went to a big A, so had architecture with some engineering. And then from there, my father convinced me to quit my job, move back home. I'm from Central Florida, and work in the family business, which was a construction company. And then that led into theming. So what's interesting about my engineering journey is I am a registered professional engineer, so I do keep up my my engineering, but I'm not signing and sealing any drawings. But I went from designing and doing land development and parking spaces and stormwater design, and now I go into a building once there's air conditioning on, and like right before the CO. So my whole spectrum is a crazy path that got me to where I am today, but it all started with engineering. So excited to be here today.
Hi, my name is Jilda Alvarez. I am an independent consultant. I'm a database architect. I always wanted to be an architect, except that I graduated high school when I was 15, and although I had a paid scholarship to go to University of Florida, my dad said, over my dead body, you're not leaving the house, so I ended up here at UCF. I got a computer science and management information systems. But my journey took me to architecture in the cloud. So I architect data solutions in the cloud. I work for very large organizations like IBM, Deloitte, PwC, all the big 4s, but I feel more comfortable with my own business and my own independent consulting, so Thank you for the invitation.
Hi, my name's Amy Marie. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, but my current hometown is Doral, Florida. Yes, I saw a couple of people raise their hands. I graduated from Florida International University with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. But before I got mechanical engineering, I was actually biomedical engineering. I went all the way up to organic chemistry 1, refused to take organic chemistry 2. So then I switched over to mechanical. I graduated. I did many internships before I landed my full-time role in Walt Disney World as a construction field rep. Veronica and I are actually co-workers. She's on the rooms team. I am on the IFP team, which is Integrated Facilities Planning, which takes care of anything exterior in the resorts. The 2 resorts I cover are Oak Key West and Port Orleans. And today we actually just completed one of our projects. In the Oak Key West Canal, we were replacing the geotubes on the side of the bank because they were failing. They were past their lifespan. So that project was actually quite interesting because I had divers down the water doing those repairs, and with that, I learned a lot about the environmental side. So it was a lot of working with the district. So I graduated in engineering, but I currently work in construction management. So again, thank you for having me here.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. Now we're going to jump into questions. Again, I want to reiterate that feel free to take a little bit of a longer time on any questions that you guys feel like it's needed. We don't have to go over every question. And yeah, to start with, we have question 1. So why did you decide to become an engineer? And again, we're going to start from the left to the right, and then everyone can take over.
So my journey to become an engineer started, I guess, maybe in elementary school. My grandfather was my first lab partner. And when we had to do science projects, he would help me out, and he inspired me to want to do engineering, to want to solve problems. I remember very vividly taking apart a microwave because I wanted to know how a microwave worked. That's what you got to do to learn how things work, take it apart. So I was very interested in math. I would say my journey to learning or appreciating and liking science came later. I did not like so much photosynthesis. I don't know why. But once I got to chemistry, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And which is different than a lot of students, I think. I think a lot of students are like, chemistry, like what? I really enjoyed chemistry. It made sense to me. There are equations that you follow that give you an answer versus biology, which is a whole lot of memorizing things, right? Things make sense, but it's a whole lot of memorizing versus what I enjoy about chemistry. So when I was choosing a major for undergrad, I said, well, I like chemistry and I like math. That sounds like chemical engineering. So that's what I decided to do. I went to Florida A&M University for my bachelor's in chemical engineering. I really enjoyed learning chemical engineering. When I was in undergrad, I took a course called Introduction to Environmental Engineering. And I said, oh, there are some problems in the world that my knowledge and my skills and my passion I could utilize to help make the world a better place. And so I decided to switch to environmental engineering for my master's and then subsequently my PhD. I think I'm making my grandfather proud. So yeah, that's why I became an engineer. And I love, again, math. I love science. I love technology. I love engineering. I love understanding why and how things work, how the world works. So yeah.
Nice. So yeah, very similar. I started, I think, at a young age. So I was born in Mexico, and then I came here when I was like in 3rd grade. And obviously I had the language barrier, right? I couldn't really understand English and really communicate with a lot of classmates, but math, numbers is very universal. So that is something that, and I excel at. I love math, like calculus, differential equations, sign me up. But those are like my favorite classes. So I really enjoyed that. So I took in high school like a little test because, I knew nothing about college or anything because I'm a first gen, college student. So my parents couldn't really help me. And a lot of, high school, they promote you, college, go this. And I'm like, sure, but like, what should I study? What should I do? I don't know. And I took a little test, and then the test was like some of the top, career things that I should study or go with and one of them came out as engineer. And of course, there's so many different types of engineer, right? So I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but it seems like mechanical engineering was really broad, that I can like maybe explore that option. And whenever I was thinking about mechanical engineering, I was like, maybe I can do like cars, build some cars. I think that'd be really fun. But so I did that, and I finished my degree. But during college, I did some internships with actually FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, and that's how kind of led me to construction. So I did a lot of design engineering as well. I did some of the roadway and drainage design for the interstates here in Florida and in other states as well. So I really enjoyed that. So. But again, it was kind of like my engineering route just kind of took me more into construction because I really enjoy being there, building this massive, interstate and just different buildings. And in construction and, in Walt Disney World, there's so much going on. There's always building and more things. So that's always been, my passion, being really interested in just building kind of from the ground up.
My path, and we talked about, was it Amy, you said you got to organic 2 or organic 1, and then, but Dr. Dozier, you love chemistry, right? So I'm going to take Amy's side because, I actually grew up in swimming and playing tennis, and so I actually had an athletic career, which the one thing that does is it teaches you discipline, hard work, there's no excuses, but what it didn't allow me is to explore, like, the career that I'm going to have later. And so when I went to Florida, I actually swam on the swim team, and my head coach was the head coach of the men's Olympic team this year with Katie Ledecky and Bobby Fink. So it's pretty cool to see my coach on TV. But so with that, I went to school thinking that I was going to be a doctor. And actually in high school, I got all these science and math awards and scholarships, but I wasn't going to take that career path. So I went to Florida, got through Organic 2, and decided that I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to become a doctor anymore. And so my father, having construction, said, why don't you become an engineer? And I honestly didn't even know what that meant or what the career path would take. And what's interesting is I asked my father, like just recently, why didn't you tell me to go into construction? But he's like, I always knew you could get into that with engineering. And so, I think I basically had to start math over my junior year at Florida and spend every summer there, but I did enjoy it. So, but after I got my degree, I just love math, science, building, and what that helped me with is the first job, all of those problem-solving skills, you can translate that into anything. And I think that's what is the best part about becoming an engineer, is that you're going to get this great foundation to problem solve, to figuring things out, and then you never know what your career path will take you, because I think as you continue to hear us talk, we all have different paths, but it all starts with a foundation. And I think that's what's most important about engineering, is to get those critical skills that will take you further in any career choice that you take. But mine was an interesting path to get there, but my engineering and my problem solving helps me as a business owner today. So it's been a crazy one.
So I wanted to be an architect from the beginning, but I couldn't. So when I came to UCF, I said, I want to be a civil engineer. And then I was like, no, this is, because I used to work at AT&T Wireless at the time, and technology, the dot-com bubble was, everybody was doing that, and I was able to learn some programming languages and things that I could help the organization at AT&T to automate by that time, So I decided, maybe I should do computer engineering. Okay, so that's how I got into computer engineering. Data engineering, it was an accident, literally. Nobody knew how to do database administration back in the days in 1999 when I graduated. So they handed it to me and go learn it. I'm like, what? Why not? It was the beginning of what was going to be what you guys are experiencing today, which is the data and AI industrial revolution, right? It just like the chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, all these engineering, when the industrial revolution hit with the steam, with the electricity and all, there was no careers in engineering. They were building it as they were developing in the industrial engineering. Today, the engineering that we will discuss in the next 5 years are going to be completely different engineerings, because we need you to manipulate data and AI. Sorry. And so today I architect data solutions in the cloud that help flow the data that will solve the problems with these incredible minds that are going to be able to tell AI to do what we need to do in the future. But the minds that tell AI are sitting right in this room.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
So I, by mistake, already told mine, but that's fine. I guess a little longer on that. I changed my major 4 times. So for some of you that don't think you have it figured out, trust me, some of it takes time, and it's okay for you to graduate college late. I graduated when I was 26, so I want to put that out to like anybody who struggles and think I'm not in the same age bracket as my peers. So I started off with criminal justice, got my associates in that, didn't really want to do that, jumped to biology because my mother convinced me I was going to be a doctor. Like I said, I'm sorry, doctor, but like I got all the way up to chemistry. Luckily, I had a great engineering mentor at that time. Ran towards him, was like, I cannot do organic chemistry too. I refuse to. I refuse to do biochemistry. I refuse to go up the ladder in chemistry. My apologies again. So he was biomedical graduate, mechanical master's, and he told me, why don't you just switch to mechanical engineering? It's a much broader field. And I thought to myself, he has a point, because you can kind of jump around a lot with that field. And when I was in school, I also was very indecisive of what I want to do in mechanical engineering. There was a couple of things I knew I didn't want to do. I didn't want to do aerospace, I didn't want to do cars, I didn't want to do design. So I was actually focusing on energy at one point, like the study of energy and the study of heat transfer. But through my internships I did, I just happened to land one at Walt Disney World, which got me to my career today, which is complete opposite of what I started. I'm in construction now, which I tend to use my engineering degree here and there. But I would say the biggest thing that I used in it is like the people skills and the problem solving. You have to problem solve a lot in the field, because you have plans in front of you, but when you cut open a wall, you're like, oh, that's not on this drawing, or that's not the correct measurement, or hey, this is kind of out of code. What do we do? So that's when that degree comes into play. But at the end, engineering can get you to whatever field you want to do. You just have to find what you're passionate about.
Something onto this. So a few of us talked about problem solving skills, so I wanted to maybe talk a little bit more about that. So I teach statics, one of my major courses, and I love teaching statics. So statics is what I tell my students is like the first real engineering course, meaning, do you really want to be an engineer? So you're going to have problems that combine physics, that combine geometry and calculus, and they're going to take a long time to do. You have to really get in there and be patient and figure out what you need to do to solve that problem. So just a question, I guess, for you all, like, in the careers that you have, how important do you see your preparation as an engineer in the problem-solving area to apply to what you do now?
I think in construction, you plan and you come up with a plan and you think it's right, and then you go out there and the plan changes the minute that you start the plan. And so I think problem solving is literally the core to like construction. You have so many trades, you have so many people coming in, and then you have to take the pros and cons of each thing. So I don't know, every day is a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
That changes, and it's a dynamic one too, when you see a job site change.
Yeah.
For sure. And then I just want to add too, like, you have to mitigate the risk, right? There's so many different things, so you got to see what's the risk analogy that it's like, okay, which one should we take? What route should we take? There's so many different options, and that's whenever the problem solving comes into play. Be like, what's going to be most cost efficient? Yeah, it might be fixed for like right now, but what about long term? We got to always think about long term. We got to think about the maintenance of it, of like, hey, maybe this writing looks really cute and really nice, but then how are people going to access that if it breaks? So, kind of thinking about those problem solvings.
And I just wanted to add, one of the things that there's a a system called EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. So, and it's how to run your business. But one of the big components of it are you have to be able to solve your issues, which is problem solving. And so it's called IDS. So you have to identify the problem, you have to discuss it, and you have to solve it. And so, I think, and the other part is, someone mentioned people skills here, because the people component is probably the biggest factor. You have to have people to run a business. You have to have people to have jobs. You have to have people to have ideas. We have AI, but AI needs people to direct them. And so, I think the ability to collaborate and to work and to efficiently discuss something, like identify what's the root cause. And a lot of times problems, you may start with the problem, but that's actually just the surface problem. And that problem, to your point, may break it up into 5 more. And it's how do you identify those, put them out, and then solve. And then all of that is an engineer's brain of how you do that. So, I think that's really important to kind of go through those and collaborate.
So I was 21 years old when I dropped, I had a drop. I had an outage in in an organization. You have to also know how to handle stress because you have sometimes millions of dollars. And when you're starting as an engineer, it might scare you. Some way people, when things hit the ceiling, right? So people change, right? So I've had people come to me and scream in my face, right? And treat you really bad. And then at that moment, you're like emotionally, like, what do? I just go to the bathroom, cry, and then come back and just wipe my tears and figure out what happened. And when you realize that experience was eye-opening to me, what I was gonna face in my career. But I realized that it wasn't a problem that I did. It was a problem that it was done somewhere else. And then be smart enough to cover yourself, right? Because your life is going to be covering yourself because other people can screw up too, right? So know how to document, know how to handle emotions. Troubleshooting is a gift you have as an engineer. You are already born with it. Every one of you. If I measure you, you have a level of troubleshooting skills that you're just innate, right? It's like basketball players. They just know how to do it. Right? I don't know how they do it, but they do it, right? You have it. But the most important thing is joining the other elements of your personality that is going to drive you into the career, which is your emotional intelligence, right? And your stress level, how to handle and mitigating risk. So.
There's a couple of things that I thought of as you all were talking about people. One of the things that I say in class, which maybe the students are annoyed with me saying it, but it's true, engineering is a team sport. So I think a stereotype when it comes to engineers, when it comes to science majors, is that they're isolated. They want to work on their own, and that happens a lot with my students, but anyone in this room that has been in a classroom of mine knows that I will make them talk to each other. Put your phone down and say hello to the person sitting next to you. Being able to solve problems goes further if you are working with other people. You have to be able to bring people into the fold, bounce ideas off of each other, and utilize the diversity that people bring to the space. Also, I want to add, when it comes to navigating relationships, 2 books that I want to recommend. I love self-improvement, self-help books. So 2 books I want to recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People and The Power of Positive Thinking. So please, if you haven't read those books yet, I highly recommend them.
And then I want to go after that. Definitely, it's a people's place. Everywhere you work, you're going to work with people. And I think in construction especially, one of the reasons I love my job is because I like talking a lot. And I don't like sitting still. So every time I go to a new site, I go to a new job, I have a new project, I meet new people. And it's just connecting with them on a new level, like, well, where'd you grow up? How did you get into construction? How long have you been in it? What trade are you on? And I think Veronica and I can speak to this, that when we go to our job sites, one of the things we vouch is safety. So when that person comes to work, we want to make sure they leave the same way. So it's not only making a connection with them, but it's also making sure that, hey, we can trust each other at the end, because you don't know how long you're going to be together. I'm currently on a project where I'm going to be with the contractors for 3 years. Some might go longer. So you always want to have those relationships and those boundaries and that trust level with them. And I think being an engineer, although we are stereotypes as like introverts, it definitely is a good foundation for people skills and building those relationships.
So now we're gonna go more into like the women's aspect, and it's how do you think being a woman engineer has shaped your career experience so far?
You know, it's funny because women in engineering, you walk. I didn't even realize it was so. I don't want to say bad, but so like polarized, I guess. Because whenever I told my parents I want to study engineering. They're like, okay, cool, go ahead. And then you get to college, and then you're like the only woman in the room. That was like really like shocking because I was like, oh, whoa, what is this, right? Like, what do you mean only not a lot of women want to study engineering? I'm like, I love math. What? It just didn't make sense to me. So I think how being a woman engineer has shaped me through my experiences that there has to be a lot of support on each other, and obviously women supporting women, but the guys too, right? They have to be allies in helping us out. And even whenever in a job site, sometimes, you know, I'm like the young girl, they're just like, hey sweetie, hey darling. So but I always try to be like, kind of make a stop to it and be like, hey, I have, you know, 7 years experience. This is not my first rodeo. It's not my first time. But even if it is your first time, be like, hey, maybe I don't know as much as you do, but let's talk about it. Let's learn, and let's learn from each other, right? So I think just being patient, that's a really important one that I've learned, is that some people are maybe going to be a little shocked to even see you, because yeah, maybe you might be the only woman in the room, the only woman in a meeting, but just know that you deserve to be there. You are important, and then you have a voice, right? And the most important thing too is to know that you made it on this table, so then you can try to help other people in here. That's why I really focus on empowering and talking to, you know, my little nieces and everything, because sure, I made it here and it's great, but I'm trying to help others as well to get to how far I've come.
So I wrote a book called Latina in Data. It's a guide on how to navigate the terrain, because the data and AI mountain is huge, it's high, it's very high, and it's a lonely place. Like as a woman in technology for 25 years that I've been in technology, it is in the last 5 years that I've seen more women around me. And Latinas especially, let me just give you an example. I was 22 years old, walking into a disaster at IBM, large organization, and as soon as I walk in, they send me to the laundry room. Like, the laundry room is at the corner, and I'm like, I'm coming to clean your databases, but that's about all the cleaning that I'm doing. So you have to kind of face with, you know, it's funny, right? Because if we are not here to build a foundation for the next generation, you guys are going to experience the same thing we have. And it's not fair. You guys should not have to go through all of the things that we did 20 years ago. I am very happy to see this larger movement of women in technology. It's amazing. I mean, even the people that I text and they're like, I saw 20. I'm like, me too. Wow, 20. But it shouldn't be that way. We should be a lot more even in the industry. There's only 1% of Latinas in data. That is, before I die, I want to see 2. Not too much to ask, right? So yeah, I think it has shaped my career, which it has given me a purpose. Now I wake up with that purpose of bringing more Latinas. I helped the AI Academy for Latinas in Tech in the area of data. I do whatever I can. I'm here today. I should be doing work, but I'm here because I know one of you are going to probably jump into data, and they're going to want to know what data is. And you can call me, and I'll show you what data engineering is all about. Why not? If you can do mechanical, if you can do any of this engineering, data is another way of engineering things, right? You already have the gift.
I'm glad you brought up being a Latina, because that intersectionality part is so important. It's not just being a woman, it's also being a minority, right? So for me, as a Black woman in engineering, in academia, there's a lot that I have to contend with. In our department right now, in the College of Engineering, I'm the only Black female in all of engineering, right? So for me, how that shapes my career experience, my career trajectory is, like you said, is representation, right? To be able to be in front of the classroom saying, hey, I have all these degrees, you can do it too, and I want you to do it. And please come talk to me about any type of help that you need to get to the path that you want to be on. And in addition to what you were saying about being an ally, yes, there are male students that need to see that as well, because as they go out into their careers, they need to see that there are people that don't look like them that they'll be working with. So being that representation, having a purpose, giving me a little bit more purpose in what I do. Yes, engineering is fantastic, but also I want to be able to show you that you can do the same thing, if not better.
I think one of the things when I was an engineer and, around all men, and it is changing now, so I think that's the good thing. But, there's still simple things that, being a young, tall blonde in the engineering field, I actually, what it gave me are some strengths and stuff to look in myself and to be different, so that they actually respected me for the stuff I knew and not what I looked like. And so I became very aware of that. And so, as I would have to travel and go to different municipalities, and this is not true all the time, but, I wore pants, I wore long sleeve shirts. I always made sure that who I was around, and I stayed true to myself. And there's instances when, I'd walk up and as an FE or engineer in training, I would deal with municipalities, and I went one time, just like they said, to the laundry room, and they're like, oh, I held his card, and I used to call it the jaw-dropping moment. When I'd go up to someone, they'd already have this preconceived notion of what I knew, who I was, and then they'd start asking me questions, and then I'd start telling them the answer, and then you could just see like their mouth is like, oh wait, she knows what she's doing. And then by the time I give them my business card, they're like, oh, I just thought you were an admin, like you didn't know what you're doing. But all those things that being aware of that actually made me change my thought process. And when I would go to meetings, I would actually try to be more prepared. I would think through what the meeting was about, try to think about what they would ask. And so in land development, I actually was in Atlanta working on a big high-rise. And so we had this big open block. And, it was the first meeting. I was like, okay, they're probably going to know where the water line is, the sewer line is, all these different lines. And so I actually took the survey and highlighted it, like blue highlighter was water, sewer is green. And sure enough in the meeting, because, I was young, I was trying to make my mark. And sure enough, they started talking about, where were they going to make the connections and this and that. They're like, oh, well, who knows where all these lines are? And I go, wait, I have it. And I pulled it out. And it was just something that I thought through, because I was like, if we're going to have this meeting, let me just do 5 more extra minutes of pre-planning. And I think, certain things like that actually earn your trust really quick. And so, and even over men too, because when they know, and I do like to hire women over men, because I think we're more organized and we have our stuff together. But, it's little things that you can do. And, another skill that I got really good at is communication, because a lot of times when you're young in your career, you are communicating over email, over text, and it's what do you communicate? How do you communicate? Make sure that there's no fluff, that you're very direct, you answer the questions. And what I always tried to do is tell them one more thing. So if I had a client that I answered all the questions, I was like, before I hit send, is there something that I know that they may want to know that they didn't ask me? And then I would put that in there. And so throughout my career, I've actually had other people that I've trained and mentored under me that they said, when they went on to different jobs, they said that the one thing that their next bosses told them is that they knew how to communicate. And I think it just helped me earn trust and to be able to do my job better and better than the men sometimes.
So I want to highlight, pun intended, something that you said about highlighting the plans. Mm-hmm. So because I teach and I sometimes have the students to upload their notes, mm-hmm. I noticed that it's only my female students that are taking their, not all of them, but some of them will take their notes and they will highlight in all the colors of the rainbow, and it's just so organized. So if you are a student that does that, keep doing it. Yes.
I was that student. I remember my chemistry teacher even was like, I need to pause the slide because I have someone over here that needs to change colors for different, and I was like, I know you're talking about me as I'm writing down the notes. But going off what Julie said, also we tend to be very empathetic and very patient more than our male counterparts in certain situations. But I'm gonna go the other round, say that I have been very lucky so far in my construction role, where the women who have come before me have made a foundation to where I don't feel that pushback from my male counterparts. I know a couple of my coworkers who, they were like, a couple years ago, men wouldn't even shake my hand because I was a woman on a job site. And I'm lucky that I have not faced that because of the women that have come before me and have built that ground. So we're hoping that when you guys go into that workforce, you guys don't feel that. So I'm already proved that something's changing. Hopefully it changes a little faster.
Nice, thank you so much. Well, jumping to question 3, amazing answers, by the way, thank you so much. We have, what struggles do women face in your specific industry?
I'll talk about academia. So I am on the teaching track. So usually when people think about being a professor or teaching at a university, they think about tenure track, okay? So that's like the gold standard is to get tenure. So that basically means that you are balancing 3 parts of your job, which are research, teaching, and service, okay? Usually it's about 5 years that you spend developing all these different aspects, and then you go up for what's called a tenure review. If you pass your tenure review, which is typically a full academic year, then you go from assistant professor to associate professor, and basically you made tenure, which means you basically can't get fired unless you do something really egregious. So I am not tenure track. I am teaching track. What happens at UCF, which is a very good thing that UCF does, that it values teaching. So there is a similar progression, similar hiring promotion process for the teaching track. So I just got promoted last year from lecturer to associate lecturer. So how that affects women, again, I said approximately 5 years that you're working before you go up for your review. Women tend to have babies, right? So usually when a faculty person comes into a new job, they may be, I don't know, maybe around late 20s, early 30s, which is peak baby time. So for me specifically, it has not directly affected my, my promotion process. However, when I had a baby, things change for me, and that happens a lot with people in general. When you have a baby, things change. And so my focus became the well-being of my child, right? That was the main thing for me, making sure that he's learning the things, that he's growing and developing. But teaching is still a huge passion of mine. So individually, not so much affected, but in general, in the academic world, it can become an issue to balance being in the academic industry with home life. So it's just something to be aware of if you do decide to go into academia. But it's slowly getting better, maybe hopefully faster, but it's something that one should be aware of.
It ain't gonna get better. I'm sorry. I'm the one that bursts all the bubbles because, especially in engineering, sometimes you become it, right? You become the one that can fix the problem, the one that can do the magic. And sometimes it takes so much out of your life. It takes, I have a daughter. She's 25. I don't think she remembers me being in any of her early years. I happened to have a partner at that time that was a stay-at-home dad. And so that's why she was able to have everything she needed while I traveled and I did all the consulting for IBM. But people talk about this life balance and it's wonderful. Like I work from home. I just finished doing my laundry, I did a meeting, and I'm here. And I got paid. Isn't that wonderful? So these are the things that you can balance, but it's never gonna be where you can say, yeah, this is not my time for my life. Not because you're gonna get a text and somebody's database dropped. And you have to get out of that desk and go and fix that problem. It is kind of like in the computer science and in the computer industry, it is a work-life integration. You have to learn to work and integrate your work and your life. And then one day, a whole day, I went to do shopping. I got my guest pants and I got my, and I got paid for that day, because that night, I actually ended up working that night, right? So you know how to balance, because you know how many hours you worked, how many hours you slept. You try to integrate that. And that's the only way that I've been able to do 20 years working from home, right? And not go crazy. So the struggles that women face, to be honest with you, what I faced was discrimination. I did face discrimination, sexual harassment. Gosh, I can list so many, because I was the only woman in the whole building, right? I'm not saying this is, I don't sugarcoat what I do. I don't sugarcoat what my journey. I wrote in my book most of the things that I experienced, What I want to just make you aware, it is not going to get easier. It is rewarding, though. When you fix a problem, I mean, the best thing for engineers is when they solve a problem. I don't know if you get that rush, that endorphins and everything, yeah, and you jump and you're like, yeah. I don't know how to explain it, but it's addictive. That's my dopamine, right? So even today, I fixed a problem. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. My boyfriend was like, what is wrong with you? I don't know, I'm just crazy. It's just a different way of thinking. Some people get dopamine from other things. We as engineers, we get dopamine from fixing problems. I love what I do. I love what I do. And I'm not going away anytime, because there's gonna be another Latina over there that might love what I do too, right? And I wanna make sure that she sees me and represent, and she can also become a data engineer. So your struggles are going to be many things. You're gonna have also the pay gap, let's face it. So you're not gonna get paid sometimes as the white man, but I've been able to fix that, right? I started negotiating my salary. Trust me, it's not easy, right? So especially now I'm old, like not many people know, but there's ageism, right? And people don't want to hire old people, especially because now we're very expensive, right? Now we charge a lot of money. But for very specific things that we've been able to accumulate over 25 years, we are the only ones that can do it, right? So they're gonna have to hire us. So know how to face or how to overcome those challenges, and you'll be fine. That's it.
So for construction industry, I think the problems that women and a lot of just people face, like you mentioned too, is I think work-life balance. Because when something breaks, let's say we cut a water line whenever we're chipping some concrete, we have to do something. So it's very reactionary. We have to be there. We have to make sure we're there. So yeah, if our kid is sick at home, that's something that I don't have kids yet, but I know I kind of worry about, like, man, I have to maybe rethink a little bit more of my, at least construction wise, maybe because right now I'm a construction field rep, which that really translates to being a superintendent. So I have to be on the job site to make sure everybody's safe, everybody's wearing their proper, protection and safety vest and everything, hard hat. But that's something that I have to feel like whenever I finally decide to have a family, that I have to rethink of maybe going more into the office or finding something that can, work from home or so it'll be more work-life balance there. So, but yeah, I feel like in the construction industry, that has something that you just have to kind of be there. And unfortunately, if my kid's sick, I won't be able to be there. So I gotta pick and choose. So I don't know. I think that's something in construction that we gotta work on. But I don't know. I think obviously with technology, a lot of things you can do even virtually. Kind of do like a project sidewalk virtually. With you've seen Google cars whenever they're driving around, they take pictures of everything. Sometimes you don't even have to be on the site. Sometimes we have those cameras that we can just put in the middle of the room, take a 360 picture of everything, so you can be like, locate, where's the safety exit, what's stuff like that. So I think definitely technology is going to help us with this. So I'm definitely looking forward to the future with that.
Nice. Thank you so much. I feel like you guys are mind readers, because the next question goes back to what many of you were talking about, and something Dr. Dozier said earlier, there is a big stigma or prejudice when women decide to start a family and how it may affect their work. So the next question goes, how have you maintained a work-life balance throughout your career, and has motherhood affected you personally? Thank you.
All right. So again, it has affected me in the best way. So my son, who is actually 4 today, he inspired me to start a whole business, right? So again, Trap Baby and Me is a music and movement program. We focus on early child development, but we use fun music like trap music, hip hop, reggae, all the things. He is a COVID baby, which was a benefit to me because I got to have morning sickness at home. So, but I've been able to balance things, you know, whatever balance means, right? It's just, you do what you got to do is really what balance is. And being able to work remotely has been a godsend. So when COVID hit, you know, everybody was forced to stay home, and again, I was able to do the things that you do when you're pregnant and all the things that change with your body at home. And we were still at home for maybe 2 more years. We're in Florida, so we got out a little bit earlier than everybody else. But I was able to come to campus when we were able to come back out, teach my classes, go back home, spend time with my son, grade from home. He began daycare pretty early on. However, he wasn't full time, so he would go on the days that I taught. Other days he would be at home, and we would spend quality time and me focusing on his development. So what has affected me as an instructor, as a teacher, is that I know how important those early years are in a person's life. And when I see in the classroom, in my engineering classrooms, where there are small amounts of women, small amounts of minorities, like, okay, well, there's something that we can do early on to help to develop those skills, the knowledge, the development. And so that has caused me to infuse that into the business, so that hopefully later on, the landscape of the classroom looks a little bit different.
So I became a mom at 22, very early, and I started working from home at 23. It's been 25 years that I've been working from home. So it has been a blessing and a curse. What do I mean by that? When you work from home, especially early in your career, you miss that face-to-face interaction, your social skills to be able to build a career, a foundation. And so there's some things that you can do to help you in your career, if that's the case. I mentor many women in the area of the engineering because I've been through all of those things. So try to help them, guide them into climbing that corporate ladder and making sure that you have presence and that you're available and all these things, because it can get, working from home, it's very comfortable, but you have to know how to also be visible for the organization and grow in an organization. So work-life balance doesn't exist. We already agree with that. It's called work-life integration, and it works with prioritizing. Your family, of course, is one of those things that you cannot drop, right? That's important. So you need to learn and build a culture where those things are considered. How has it affected my personality? I regret so much missing the first 4 years of my daughter. So much. Like, I wish I could just go back in time, but I didn't know. I was so young. And I was building a career at that time. I was traveling so much. I'm very blessed to have been with somebody that was my support. So if you're considering having kids, make sure that you have that support system, that you have that husband or that mother or sister or a village that can help you, so that you don't have that pause or then have that blockage, in that corporate ladder climbing. So try to plan. I mean, you're young and you can plan. I got married young. I want to have kids, but then life hits me and growth. That's my only advice I can give you to maintain a work-life integration.
One thing I want to add is that I obviously don't have kids yet, but something that for me, for my work-life balance, I have 2 fur babies, so I have 2 dogs and they're really cute, but you gotta take them to the vets. I obviously have parents, I have nieces. I literally just went with my niece to a college tour here at UCF, so I took some time off to go there, do that with her, and show her how classes to think about and stuff like that, and so help her out. So I think setting boundaries is really important. The older generation that I work with, something they're like, back in my days, I worked 80-hour, weeks, and I'm just like, that's kind of crazy. So let's try not to do that. But I know whenever I graduated, college too, I wanted to impress everybody. So I was like, yeah, I will work late, I will work weekends and everything. But obviously it takes a toll, because then you have a family as well. So even maybe you don't have a kids yet, but you just gotta set your boundaries. Make sure, hey, I need to be home at this time, and make yourself a priority too. Make your doctor's appointments, make sure you're doing well, checking and all this stuff, because then, your 30s hit and then you're like, whoa, I need to kind of slow down more. So definitely try to set those boundaries early.
Yeah, and I'd say as a business owner, I mean, you don't have I like work-life integration, because, that's probably, growing a business for the last 11 years, I've given up a lot. And, if you have 30-something, 35 employees, like, that's what I'm doing it for. And so, I think you can real quick lose track of, taking care of yourself, which is a huge, because if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of everyone else and run a business successfully. So I do think that, I'm not a mother either, but, I think making sure that you put yourself as a priority. And, actually one of the things I wrote down, I was told that, you need to have a mentor, but then be a mentor as well. Because I think you can talk about those things and then your struggles and be able to share. And that's actually one of the things that's pretty difficult in my situation, owning a construction company in the construction industry, is I actually only know that I'm really good friends with one other female business owner, and I'm in a CEO group, and on that CEO group there's 15 people and I'm the only female in it. And so, but I guess, the great thing is that there are a lot of male counterparts that are our support. And so I know we talk about a lot of women being mentors, but men are just as good, and they're strong, and they've been through it. And I think that's what's changed a lot, is that when you talk about bias and if there's perceptions, there's a lot of stories of back in the day, these are the things I had to deal with. But like, I can tell you today that I'll go into a new project meeting and there'll be 10 people in the room and 7 were females. And like, I've never, it would be maybe 1 or 2 females in the past. So I think, the good thing is that the tide is changing, but it's still there. You still have difficulties and challenges, but just take care of yourself. Make sure you find hobbies and priorities for babies, and because then you can take care of everybody else too.
I do not have kids either, but I would say going back to taking care of yourself, especially when you're doing late nights, weekend work, make sure to always look after yourself, because unfortunately nobody else is going to be looking after you, only you, and it is very easily to burn out. So make sure you guys always keep in check with how you are doing.
This is something that I recommend, especially my early employees when they're young, the burnout, because I gotta give it to me. I forget to eat. Something as simple as eating and drinking water. It comes 2 days I haven't had water. So these are the things that I try to get into their brain, because that early 20s, they don't take care of themselves, right? And they work so much, and I'm like, you don't have to work that much. I mean, I appreciate it, but no, time to go, time to unplug, sleep, because the brain that's the way how the brain cleans all that through sleep. So you need to, and when you wake up after having a good sleep, you can solve problems even better. Trust me, I've solved problems even in my sleep. So trying to stay all night, trying to solve something, if you can't fit, just go to sleep. The next day, have a good cup of coffee, breathe, and dive right into the problem. And you're gonna be just fine. But yeah, that first early burnout years, trust me, you don't wanna go there. Because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. That's why we're here 40 years later, right? Sitting in front of you is because we were able to pace ourselves. And I'm trying right now. I want to retire soon. That's why I'm jumping into entrepreneurship. But it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Okay, you guys have mentioned before about being mentors or helping this new generation as the prior generations have helped you. So how do you inspire more women to become engineers?
So really quick, I have a nonprofit called Latinas in Data, and I don't just mentor Latinas. I mentor anybody. I'm telling you, it's 1%, so we'll take anybody, right? Anybody that wants to learn the new technologies in data and AI. So what I try to look at the curriculums that they have right now and classes that they can take so they can jump, or give them some specific online courses that they can take and they can get themselves prepared. Because AI is not going to take your job, but somebody that knows how to use AI will.
So to just repeat what I said earlier, the representation part is really important to me. I mentor my teaching assistants. I have interns as well. And I'm going to change the question a little bit. Instead of inspiring more women to become engineers, it's really more about to become who they want to be. So I have had students in my course. I remember one student in particular, this is her third time taking statics, which is not abnormal, but it was her third time taking statics. She came to office hours with me and was just trying to figure out how to pass the course. And I asked her, I said, do you want to be an engineer, right? Like, do you actually want to be an engineer? Which is not to say, oh, you shouldn't be, but there are a lot of times where students will choose engineering because their parents say it's a good path to go down. It is a lucrative career, can make money as an engineer, so they feel obligated to be an engineer. That's not what I want for my students. If it's something that you really want to do, yes, I'm going to help you in the way that I can to help you to do that. However, if it's not something that you want to do, at the end of the day, this is your life, right? It's not your parents' life. It's your life. You come here as an adult and you decide what is going to make you happy, what you're passionate about. So this one student, I asked her that, and she realized, yeah, this is something that her family wanted her to do. And I don't remember exactly what happened right after that conversation. Maybe she continued with the course and she didn't pass it, something. A year later, she emails me and she says, Professor, you probably don't remember me, but we had a conversation about if I really wanted to be an engineer, and I decided that I didn't want to do that. I now am a city planner, and I am loving it. And thank you so much for asking me that question and inspiring me to do something that I really want to do. So, and there was the part about, Marie, you were talking about us being a little bit more empathetic, right? So those soft skills are important, right? They may try to tell you, oh, it's just the hard skills that are important. No, you have to be able to talk to people and understand where people are coming from. So as a female professor, I take pride in those soft skills that I have. It's a little bit more work, a little bit more energy, yes. However, it's necessary for students. So me being able to tap into that inspired her to realize, hey, this isn't really what I want to spend my life doing. So my job, yes, is to teach you how to find the forces on an object, yes. But also, an instructor should also be there to help inspire you. College is about finding yourself, so these 4 years go by fast, they do. But it's about inspiring you to do the thing that you think at this point, because it may change, that you think at this point is something that you want to do with your life. So that's my job, to inspire women students in general to be the thing to go down the path of what they actually want to do?
Really quick. I went to San Diego for a job, and one of the girls that was fixing my laptop, she was like, I'm like, oh, I like this. And she's like, you know what database administrators do? I'm saying, no, what is that? Well, let me tell you. So that was the beginning of my journey of mentoring this young woman. You can capture in certain people certain skills. She might not like it, but she did. After a few, there was no online courses back then. I was the online. I was in Orlando. She was in California for 8 months. I think I broke my back training her on how to do what I do. And then I hired her to do my job. And that's how I brought her. She could have stayed fixing laptops for the rest of her life. But she jumped 3 times her salary by going into a career in data engineering, right? Being able to capture that mind and guide them to, it's needed, because nobody knows what they don't know, right? Right? The other girl was somebody here at Marriott. She was a developer, and a very good SQL developer. But I'm like, this ain't gonna get you where you wanna go. Right now she makes over $500,000 a year. But she is such a great engineer because she didn't know what she didn't know. So I taught her all the things she needed to know. She then went on, I hired her too, and then she got all the skills, and then she jumped into the big leagues, right? And I'm happy to throw them into the big leagues, because it is ultimately a call from her saying, Gilda, I just walked to, at that time it was Toys R Us or one of those stores, and I bought all the toys for my kids, and I didn't even look at my bank account. I'm like, okay, that is rewarding to me, because as women, we're always struggling with making a living. Had she stayed in her career path as she was as a developer, she would have never made it where she is today. But it was identifying that hungerness from her and walking her into the path that she was able to make it. So it's like lifting. You're gonna have to, in your career, also lift others. If you found a shortcut, show them the other ones how to get there.
And I would say that's definitely a thing you have to inspire the next generation. One of the things, since we're at Walt Disney World, we constantly have guests walking around, and the resorts, you run into them all the time. And, when my construction sites tend to be quite visible. So seeing like little children, little girls, young people just looking and being like, oh, what's curious? What is that? Some of them even stop me and ask me questions. But it's always the face, like when I get out of the car, I put on my safety vest, my hard hat, and you see like the little girl's face light up like, this woman's walking in the construction site, and like they see me talking to the superintendent, like mandating, like telling stuff, and they realize, oh, she's kind of one of the ones running the site. I was like, yes. So definitely is helping them understand that you can do what you want to do. Like one of the things my mom told me growing up, she's from New York back in the 70s, she wanted to play with Tonka trucks, little construction toys, and her mom was like, no, that's a boy's toy. You're not playing with them. And it's ironic that I told my mom, when she told me that story, I was like, Grandma told you this, but now look at her granddaughter. Her whole job is playing with giant trucks. So it's definitely also having that support system. I was very grateful that my parents and my siblings, they supported my career path. So also having those people that root for you and vouch for you and whatever you decide to do with your life, that's also always important. And it's a great booster into you knowing I'm in the right place. So definitely having a support system is definitely important.
So I think another thing too, like inspired the other woman is like, societies like this. I was part of SWE, Society of Women Engineers, part of SHPE as well, going to the conferences, networking. It's really inspiring to, have events like this, hearing from the people that kind of are going through it, went through it, and then give you advice and stuff like that. So then you can connect with them too, have a little one-on-one, be like, hey, you made it here, how did you do that? I think one of the ways that I got into my job at Walt Disney World is from a SWE conference. I went to a SWE conference. I was networking with somebody that just did a presentation about construction at Disney, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. How can, tell me more about that. She even invited me to Magic Kingdom backstage, and whenever I was a student there. So I mean, it was amazing. So definitely work on your connections, and don't be afraid to reach out. And whenever again you've made it here, now when somebody reaches out to you, then definitely help them out. See if this is something that they're interested in. Because again, whenever I was thinking about construction, I never thought about Walt Disney World, because we're really good at hiding construction behind the barriers and the walls. So so it's definitely kind of eye-opening whenever you sit down and talk to other people about how did you get here, how can you tell me more about that. So definitely something that I recommend.
So I'm going to reframe something that you said about not being afraid. So the thing about it is sometimes you are afraid to do things. My thing is do it anyway, right? Like do it anyway. There's no such thing as fearless. You got to put yourself out there and meet people and converse and build your network. Do it anyway. Business owner. There's lots of things as a business owner that you are afraid of. If you want to be successful, do it anyway.
People talk about so much about this imposter syndrome. It is what it is, okay? It ain't going to go away. So learn to leverage it. Imposter syndrome is what got you to be prepared for that meeting. Imposter syndrome is what keeps me studying every day. I do 2 hours of study. Why? Because I need to be prepared for those conversations with those technical people that know that I know what I'm talking about. So if imposter syndrome helps you grow, it's not a syndrome, it's a benefit. So don't worry about it. And thrive with it.
Thank you so much. Now we're gonna go into our open Q&A section.
So as women and minorities in engineering, how do you combat biases within the industry?
I know, I'm like, oh. It's funny you say that, because again, whenever I went to engineering, I was like, this is, I was not afraid, because whenever I went to my first touring the universities and stuff, I was like not afraid. But once you get there, you're like a little shocked, and you get that imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh, do I belong here? So yeah, I mean, of course you hear those biases and everything, but you always have to just set a goal. Have your goal and just kind of focus on that one. There's going to be naysayers. There's going to be people that maybe not support you, right? They're going to be like, no, I wanted this instead of, I wanted this for you instead of that. That would be like my family members saying that. And I'm like, even whenever I struggle with some college classes, I will be, just be really struggling with like circuits. I was like, man, I cannot pass this class. So it was really difficult. But again, and your family telling you just drop out, just do something else. And I'm like, I have a goal. I want to make sure. So kind of just focusing on that and kind of try your best. Like I said, even if you are afraid, just still do it, right? Still, in high school, I was really afraid to public speaking. I would like shake so much and I'll be so nervous. But college obviously encourages to do that and everything. So just try not to be afraid. And again, like if you are afraid, just go ahead and do it anyways. People, you're gonna have haters everywhere. Even whenever you feel like you're so confident, you know the answer, everything's right, they're still gonna question you. And you have to kind of do your homework and make sure you're prepared and be like, no, I know this is the answer and this is why. So I think that's the very important to have.
I don't know if you've heard tall poppy syndrome, right? This is a real syndrome, okay? What it is, it's when there's somebody that shines or the tall poppy grows a little higher, usually cut it just to keep everything. And it's something that many people do it without even thinking that they're doing it. And I experience it a lot with my Latin American employees in the United States. For some reason, and it's politics and it's so many things that don't fit in technology, to be honest with you. But I have to work that politics in it, where they were trying to step on some of the Mexican ones, and I would nip it in the butt immediately. Like, nope, let him speak, let him, technically we can talk this. There's no need for any of those things because some will shine more than others, they're gonna wanna step on them. So you have to also be the judge of this syndrome happening so that you can remove it. Bring it on the moment that it happens. Take aside that person and tell them that is happening. See, we now in technology have that opportunity to do. You guys are going to be faced with those biases. You're going to be faced with those things. And understand that people with our skills to try to maintain those things are going to be there to help you. Don't let that bring you down. Continue to shine. Your life is a continued, what I call it, continued improvement, continued development, right? And you focus on your lane and you continue to grow regardless of who was growing behind, or just focus on your lane and just continue to go, and it won't affect you. But it is a syndrome that if you don't get treated, or not treated, if it doesn't get taken care of, it can impact you psychologically. That can affect people. And because I see how it affects people, I try to be focused. When I identify it, I take care of it immediately, okay? So, but don't let that take you away from what you want to be, okay? You belong here. Nobody can tell you otherwise.
And I would say in my case, being a minority is towards my advantage, just because of the nature of the construction industry and where we are located. It's a larger Hispanic-based population, and being someone from that group and also speaking Spanish, sometimes they come to me as in terms of, some of these workers, their first language is Spanish and maybe they don't know English as well, so they come towards me to help them out, translate, and it develops a sense of trust between the workers. And they always know that you're a go-to person to come to wherever there's a situation, if they have any doubts or issues. So in that case, it can be an advantage.
What is something you wish you had known earlier on in your career that you know now, or maybe has been helpful to you that you wish you had known back then?
I have ADHD. When I was little, I was not very, how can I say, normal, or I don't know. In the beginning, it made me feel isolated, and but I was a very smart kid, and I graduated high school at 15, but I still felt weird. Like people didn't, I didn't fit in anywhere. What I didn't realize is that having this was a superpower. Why? Because I could dive into projects like you wouldn't imagine. Hyper-focused, get things done. It was, had I known that, I wouldn't have cried so many times why I'm so different. I'm like, listen, I got a superpower you guys don't know. These are the things, that's why you have to know who you are. And I think when you're 40, you begin to learn who you are, and you start saying, it's good. Whatever I have, although it might have caused some bullying. I know I used to get they used to chase me. I used to be a good runner though, to hit me. And I used to run the whole high school, and I would get through the biology class from another side instead of this side, because there were 3 girls that wanted to hit me. Why? Because I would answer all the questions. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't know that I was being weird. I just knew that I knew what the teacher was saying. One teacher told me, Tilda, do you want to teach today? I'm like, yeah. And I didn't know why, he was trying to pick on me. I'm like, no, yeah, I know the whole thing. And they were like, no, Gilda, sit down. These little things that I did not know, that I now know, I'm very proud of that Gilda back then. I wish I would have known then.
But I'll say, there are things that I can say I wish I would have known, but not knowing them has led me down this path that now at 40, I'm like, oh, the confidence is competencing, right? You go through these different life experiences where you are learning things, you are interacting with people, sometimes good, sometimes bad, and you end up at a place where, okay, I see why that happened, because it allowed me to develop this part of myself that is helpful personally, that is helpful professionally. So you just take the experiences as they come, and you live life and you see what happens.
And I'd say, it's okay to fail. I think that's probably something that, a lot of times I probably didn't do some things or take risks because I was too afraid. And I think sometimes you have to take those risks to make the best calculated risk, and then, if it works out, it does. But if it doesn't, then you learn from it. So, I would say that's probably one of the things, is just to think through and maybe, force yourself to do the things that you don't want to do, because you'll learn and grow from them. And I wish I had done that earlier.
I would say also setting boundaries. Going back to the work-life balance, burning yourself out is always early on, to let them know, yeah, sure, I can get this done. Yeah, sure, I can take on that project, but also, what do I get, in return for, I need to make sure I have this type of rest, this type of vacation. Always make sure you set your own personal boundaries, because if not, going back to work-life balance, you do not want to burn yourself out at a young age. Speaking as myself, I have back issues now, and that's not fun. So definitely take care of yourself. Yes, it is not good.
And this doesn't really speak to the question, but it came to my mind as you were talking. Learn about finances, learn about investing, learn about saving. Some of you may be first generation. You may not have the experience, the background in your families to really teach you about money. As you get into your careers as an engineer, you're going to probably make money. You want to know how to best manage it. So learn about finances.
Yeah, and another thing is, do not be a people pleaser, right? Because that's something that we want to make sure we please everybody. Everybody's happy, everybody's this. But then that's whenever you start losing yourself. You start being focused. You start being the go-to person, which is amazing. You're the go-to person. But then, in a way, I hope that they're not doing it this way, but sometimes people take advantage of that. Be like, well, Veronica's so reliable. Let me ask her to do X, Y, and Z and do everything. And I don't mind them doing that now, but it's like, okay, sure, I'll get this done, but it'll be, let's say they ask me at 4 o'clock on a Friday, and I'm like, okay, sure, but I'll get to it by Monday by 10 a.m. or something. Try to set those boundaries, try to make sure you're vocal, and try to set priorities and make sure that people are not kind of taking advantage of you and all of that. But yeah, I do echo the being financially responsible too. Maybe some of us will graduate with student loans, so make sure you have to pay those off. Be important, and invest in your 401k, trying to save money as much as you can. If you want to pursue your master's degree, try to save money for that. So I definitely think that's important too.
One thing that I wanted to add is, if once you go out in the world and you start working for any company, make sure you keep track of your accomplishments. Document everything you do. I did this, I put a column on that table that helped, I did this and that. Make sure you have everything, and then you're visible. People know what you do. Trust me, it will save you behind and many layoffs or anything like, oh my God, the work that she did. And use ChatGPT and make it all nice and fancy. You just added a column, but the column created a performance improvement. Do it whatever you can to be yourself visible, so people know who you are. Trust me, that will be a lifesaver.
Good evening. What's a moment in your guys' career that made you feel especially proud so far?
I think probably getting the job that I have here, and I'll tell you why. So I lived in Arizona for a year and a half. While I was there, my husband decided that he wanted to go to law school. So we moved here for him to go to Florida A&M Law School. Now, I was looking for a job, of course. Where am I going to work? I don't know. So because I am the type of person where I do put myself out there, I called UCF and I said, hey, I am moving to Central Florida. I am looking for a teaching position. The chair told me that they did not have anything at the time, but that they would get back to me. There may be some adjunct positions available. Now, adjunct is not a bad thing. There are lots of opportunities for adjuncts to come in, teach courses, but usually it's for people that are in industry and they want to do some teaching on the side. I needed a full-time position, so I'm looking for other positions. Again, we're still in Arizona, looking online, applying for some other jobs. About a month after I called, I get a call from UCF. In a twist of fate, a position has opened, and we would love to bring you on for an interview. Guess what happened, right? I'm here. And that just shows the power of putting yourself out there and trying things. You don't have to wait for a position to open to call somebody. Like back in the day before there was a computer, people would have to mail, like actually type out things, put it in an envelope, go to the post office, mail it out, right? Or just pound the pavement, walk around to find jobs. Now with technology, I can make phone calls, I can send emails, but you don't have to wait for something to come to you. Go to it. That's my thing.
You know, I think that's a great example. I mean, for the question is, something I'm proud of course, is going to college. Again, I mentioned I'm a first-generation college student, so just even navigating, going through college, doing the applications, doing the scholarships, that was such a difficult thing for me, just to be like, I have to take a lot of, just focus on the goal. It's gonna, you know, work out at the end. So, but definitely put yourself out there. It's funny you mentioned that, because I remember I was applying, you know, as a sophomore, I was applying for a lot of internships, but I wasn't getting really any phone calls or anything, because, you know, I'm a sophomore. I guess people didn't really want to hire me, but I put myself out there. I searched engineering offices, and I was in Lakeland for Florida Polytechnic University, and I literally cold turkey, like, emailed a bunch of companies to be like, hey, I'm studying mechanical engineering. I would love to do an internship, a summer internship at your job, so please consider me. Here's my resume and everything. And I did that for like 20 companies, and one of them actually reached out and said, you know what, we'll call you back. Yeah, come on over. We might have something so you can come and do an internship. So absolutely, definitely put yourself out there, do the reach out. Even if it's a small company, maybe they don't like post it everywhere like Indeed and everything. But if you reach out to them, be like, hey, I'm just gonna do maybe a couple hours. I can just get the experience, and that actually definitely helped out.
I'd say, I know we have some ABC members here, but you know, I think you get to a point in your career where you can give back. And so, you know, the Associated Builders and Contractors represents all the construction industry here. And so I was selected by my peers to get on the board, and then I was just past board chair of 2024. And so I was the second female in 51 years to be board chair. So, you know, I think one of the things when I quit my engineering job and came and got into construction, you know, my father encouraged me. He's like, let's join ABC, get involved. And so getting involved, giving back, meeting people, all the connections you get. And so by giving back, I eventually made it on the board. And then, you know, that's where I can, you know, help influence, help mentor young women and females, and to be a role model. So I think, you know, that's what's rewarding, is when you get to that point where you can give back. So thank you for all the ABC members in here.
So the moment that I felt really proud was when I became a manager for Deloitte, and I was able to give back to the community. One of the things that it was a whole process, because as an independent, introvert engineer, there was no, you know, you just do your job and you go home, and you do your job and you go home. Managing more people, looking around and seeing no Latinos in engineering, I went ahead and created a ERG for Deloitte for the Latinos. I engaged Alpha, I engaged so many organizations just to begin building the pipeline for Latino community, and I was able to see other Latino women be who they are. Like, for example, one of the things that I did as an engineer in a male-dominant industry was I never wore a dress, never. For 10, 15 years, never wore a dress, never wore heels, tennis shoes, and, you know, ponytail, no makeup, right? So in a way, I was not being who I was. And as I moved into this role of leadership and finding that there were other leaders, Latino leaders, being who they are, I wanted to dance salsa. I wanted to be who I was, which was a full Latina. And I didn't want to be who I used to be. You know, it took me to where I was, and I found myself at the age of 40. Mm-hmm. You're entering the world where you're gonna find who you are, and it's amazing, you know, because you have to be authentic to be here, and to be able to explain all of this. I had to be who I was, and I had to prepare to be who I was. As you can tell, I didn't like speaking in public. I went to Toastmaster just to learn to speak in public. It's not easy, right? For introvert people that don't have that social connection. It was great. I'll be honest with you, as an introvert, I could stay, like they punish me and take me home and I can be there for years and I will not come out. And I'm okay. I don't do this, but I force myself to be here. Why? Because I have a purpose. My purpose is to inspire. My purpose is to represent. That's why I'm here. So that's the only thing that, it pretty much drives me to be here. So proud moment for me is when I stepped into the next version of who I was and contribute to the community.
And I would say for me, it would be getting my full-time job at Disney, coming from someone who was only doing internships. I did 2 internships at Disney back-to-back for a year. By that time, I already graduated from college. I was a year out. I was finishing up my internship, and my only options was I get hired full-time, I go back to school into my master's, or I'm moving back to Miami. So I remember when I was in the process of my internship and having other my internship peers, some of them being seniors in college. I remember one of them said, well, I don't want to do an internship after I graduate. I want a full-time job. And I was like, whoa, slow down a minute. There's benefits to it. It gives you a little peekaboo at what the real world is like. It's like a little snapshot, like, well, do you like this job or do you like the other job? So I was grateful that I got the opportunity to do 2 internships back to back, where one of my internships was like, I wouldn't really want to work for this department where I was office-based on a computer doing Excel sheets. That just wasn't me. But my second internship was with FAM, and it was field. And I learned that, wow, I actually like construction. So I would say definitely getting my full-time job was my proudest moment, but also my internships. And I would say, I don't know if some of you are graduating soon or not, but don't, push internships after graduation in a drawer. I had multiple classmates that had full-time positions with like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop, and sometimes it made me feel like, am I not at the same level? Go at your own pace. Because as someone who wasn't there when everybody else was, eventually I got to my track. So that's what I would say.
Okay, this is a little, ¿cómo se dice? Less pesada, less like heavy question. I'm a little fashionista, and I love to dress up. I love high heels. I love like nails and stuff like that. And I feel like sometimes in engineering that is not very normal or looked up upon. Have you guys ever felt like the way you dress has changed the perception of the people around you or something like that?
Do you like math?
Yeah.
I think it depends, of course, on your role. Unfortunately, at Disney, they're very specific on the attire, and you can even, dye your hair purple and stuff. I remember in college, I experimented with a lot of color in my hair, but I think it depends on the field. Of course, I know if you go into research, you can't have like your nose painted and have a lot of makeup on. So I definitely think you have to explore those options and see. But again, it's just in the Walt Disney attractions industry, at least at Disney, I know there's very restrictive ways. But whenever I want to express myself, I try to go to events like this, or I go to the conferences and I kind of interact with them and wear more fun colors and stuff like that. But definitely just try to explore those options. And I think that's why networking and talking to people in the field that you want to get into or trying to, you're maybe interested in, maybe talking to them and see, technically if it's okay, or if it's more like office attire, like blazer and a suit, or if it's more like, wearing polos kind of thing, so.
Yeah, I agree. It depends on the industry. It depends on the field. In academia, it depends on the culture of the department, of the college. If you've been in my class, I like to dress. I wear bright colors. I wear actual dresses. I wear heels. I like to dress like a stereotypical girl. I enjoy it. I like makeup. So I like to do little designs in my hair. I love all the things. So it depends on, again, the industry, what you like to do, what makes you comfortable, what makes you confident, and just go to it with that thinking. Just to speak on nails, you talked about research. I'm not a nails person primarily because I did research in graduate school and I couldn't have nails, and it just carried through. But if you like to, do your nails, have fun.
And I'd say in the construction industry, I mean, there is the typical construction, but there's also being in the theme parks here, there's a lot of creative. And so today we actually got to go and check out a theme park that's opening early. And when you walked around, well, actually it's not opening early, but we got to do the testing. But it was just amazing to see all the creative, like purple beards, tattoos. I mean, just like people, and that's who they are. But there is a space for creative and fun, and so I think you just have to ask around and look for it, and be yourself, because you don't want to change yourself, because then you won't be bringing your best services to us.
Have you thought about maybe cybersecurity engineer? Have you seen our group? Hair, all different colors, nails, all different colors. Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because we go our lives thinking that we're different until we get into a conference with all these cybersecurity people. And I'm like, gosh, we're all the same. Like they're all dressing up as Star Wars. It's,
They show their personality, right?
It's a personality. It has nothing to do with engineering. Yeah. It's who you are. You would take that to wherever you are, and you just don't be like me. Don't be like me and not wear makeup and wear pants. I had to do it. I was,
Back then
the assets we have, and when you have 300 men, when you're walking in with a dress, and it was I had to do that for my own credibility until I built that credibility, and then I found who I was, right? So don't let that stop you. If you're good at what you do, what you look like has absolutely nothing to do.
So it's ironic because Veronica and I were talking about this walking from the park, and I was like, I wish I can wear purple eyeshadow to work, but we can't because we have a policy. But definitely in my college days, I had pink hair, green hair, blue hair. I would wear green eyeshadow to school. But one loophole I found in construction is I have like gummy bear earrings, like lightsaber earrings. So my earrings have been the way to express myself because I have to show my personality somewhere. I tend to put on press-on nails because I climb scaffold and they break very easily. But I have told you, in my room rehab project, I've had women who are foremen in their trade, like drywall and electricians. Those women have claws. And they're mudding, they're taping. As long as they don't break a nail, they're good. So I've seen it be done. It does depend on the company and the policy, but definitely my earrings have been a way to do it. I try to keep my nails a little bit short, but it can always be done. It's you have to express yourself somewhere. Of course.
So I had a good question. I wanted to ask you guys if you guys had any role models or mentors that have shaped, the way you are. I mean, my dad is a civil engineer. My mom, she ran that business and tripled it back in Venezuela. Then we moved here, and now I'm over Shiva. So, do you guys have anything like that?
It's sad, but there's none. It is sad. I've never had a mentor. And it's one of the reasons why I mentor women, because I know nobody reaches out to them, nobody hands them, I've literally been a trail, I've built my own path. And so as you grow in corporate America and as an entrepreneur, it gets even lonelier, and people that want to help, actually it becomes more competitive, and people don't want to help. People want to compete. So it becomes really difficult, but it's okay. I think you draw your path, right? And you see if things work. If not, you go to the left. If you go to the right, you pivot to the left, right? And don't forget, there are people that will help you. So build community, right? And what I mean by build community, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a presentation on migrations to the cloud, right? In Seminole Community College. It's free lunch. If you want to go just to listen to me, go for it. Just to see what I do. Right? So it's not rocket science. Trust me, I don't send anybody to the moon. I just put databases in the cloud, right? That's simple. And it's a career that is easily attainable, right? No 4-year degrees, probably 12 months and you're set to go. So that's why I try to bring careers in data and AI to the public because they're not as difficult as what you guys been through, right? That my foundation in computer science was great, but now I'm going into the cloud. I have, everything out there in the cloud is completely different, same concepts, but 4 years of what, right? So I want to persuade you to look into careers in data and AI, the careers that are there in the future. And right now we have plenty of mentors, plenty of people that want to help. Why? Not because they want to give you, think about it, right? Nothing is free in the world. Nothing is free. Now, there's no free lunch here. What we need is your minds. We need your learning capabilities. We need to bring more people that can do what we do so that we can be more productive and be able to bring the data and AI revolution to its peaceful place. Because right now, we're upskilling like crazy because we weren't prepared for what's hitting us right now. So many jobs are being lost, and we need to grab that 24 million people that are going to lose their jobs in the next 2 years, upskill so that they can go back to the job market. So it's a rush against time right now. So we're training, and we're not giving you a free lunch. We need your time to learn so that we can get you up there and ready to work again.
And I would say I was very lucky to have a mentor throughout my college career. I was in Miami-Dade College, which is a community college down there. He was a graduate student at the time as a tutor, so ended up tutoring me in math, ended up getting hired once he graduated by the school, so ended up becoming a professor, was my professor, and it just continued that mentorship program up until I graduated, and to the point that we're still in contact to this day. His name's William Marchant, in case anybody wants to look him up on LinkedIn. If he sees a bunch of views, it's because of me. And one of the things he did for me when I first got my email saying, congratulations, you're moving on to the next step of interviews for Disney, he did a mock-up interview for me. So he Googled a bunch of questions. He called me and he pretended to be an interviewer and he wrote down stuff and he gave me pointers like, I like what you said this, maybe try word this, maybe, say this differently, or like talk more about this. So I was very grateful to find a person like that. And he's still a friend in my life. Like, he saw that I was doing this panel and he texted me this morning, good luck, you're gonna do great. So definitely find that person. I have a lot of young construction workers. A lot of families work in construction, so I get 20-year-olds, straight out of whether it be high school or, they moved here recently. I told them, well, do you want to move up in the construction field? Do you want to be a superintendent one day? Let me know. I have contacts that could help you. Let me know if you want a certain trade, if you want to work for a certain company. I can mentor you and help you go up. So I'm definitely looking to pass it down because it has done so wonderful for me. And I want to give that to someone, be like, in 10 years, be like, good luck on your panel and stuff like that, or like see how they've achieved, because I know he's always checking up on me. So I appreciate him very much.
So you asked about role models. Just like Amy Marie, I've had multiple role models, both, people that I can call or just know about because they're in my field, or I just appreciate the things that they have done with their lives. I mentioned my grandfather before. He was an inspiration behind me going into engineering. But my family, just in general, are like very high achievers. So my grandmother, she got a master's, like a long time ago, got a master's degree in library science. My uncle has a degree in physics. Like, who does that? My mom has a Juris Doctorate, business owners. So I guess it's a little bit expected for me to go down the path that I went down. And all the things that I have wanted to do, there has been support for that. So I'm blessed in that regard. As I've gone through my many different schoolings, I have met people that have been very supportive in undergrad. My undergraduate advisor, Dr. Kalu, was very instrumental into me getting into research, getting me into graduate school. He's someone that I talk to a lot as well. Hopefully he'll be coming up here next weekend for the Kite Festival. And I went to a summer research program in MIT, worked with a woman, her name escapes me right now, but she was a role model for me. I just really appreciated her as a Black female at MIT in engineering, like just doing amazing things. She's the chair of the department right now. When I went to get my master's, there were people there that were awesome. I built a strong community. When I was at UC Berkeley, my best friend, still my best friend right now, I met at UC Berkeley, University of Texas. Again, a strong community. My advisors were very supportive. When I went to UMass Amherst, the people that I worked with there, and it was mentioned before about not discounting white male mentors, support systems. They are there. They can be mentors and supports for you as well. So don't like discount just because they don't look like you, that they might not be in your corner. But I met some amazing people there. So I just have been blessed to be able to communicate with people and have people in my life that want the best for me and that have helped to guide me along the way.
So you mentioned something very important, community, right? 10 years ago, we decided to build a, what it's called SQL Saturday. It's a community-based training that we do for free, right? I didn't have a mentor. What I have is over 300 engineers across the world that would come and share their knowledge. So whenever you are in a community where you can learn from other people, those are your mentors in a way, right? You're learning from other people, very especially in technical skills where somebody's doing something very different than you are and you want to learn from them. That's a type of mentor, right? And I haven't had one person that can guide my career because my career was accidental, right? Technology keeps moving, my career might be different in 2 years, right? And keeps moving, it might be different. So it's very difficult to have one person that can guide me. That's why I haven't had one specific mentor. But it's easier for me to mentor other people because I've already seen the peak of the mountain, right? So I can see where this is where you need to go. These are the skills. This software is going out of business, kind of thing. I have that knowledge. But for you, especially starting now, having a community of, in your area, mechanical engineer, industrial engineer, all the engineers should have their own little community that you can learn little things, tips from, especially now with data and AI, the tools that they're using to expedite their productivity.
And I just reiterate, don't be afraid if you have this community to ask people to lunch, take them out, coffee, because people do like to talk and share, but they're not going to come up to you. You guys have to go find them, but they're willing to share. So, actually my mentors have been basically, my family members, and that is one thing that I have had to learn is everyone says, be a mentor, and I'm like, oh, I'm mentoring a lot of people, but I don't have one, and that's because I'm not asking. So, I'm still learning that right now, but I know that the minute I ask for advice and help, and I have all these resources, they're there. So I encourage you guys to reach out to your community and ask for help, ask for advice. Like, even if you're unsure what to talk about, if you just listen to their career path, or if they're doing something that you like, you're going to learn something in that meeting. So don't be afraid.
Including us.
Yes, exactly.
And unfortunately as well for myself, growing up, I did not have a role model because, I didn't really see a lot of people that look like me. There was not a lot of Latina engineers whenever I was going to college and stuff. So it was very, very difficult to really see myself. So the way I just kind of put it in my brain was like, let me be a role model that I wish I had growing up. So that's why I always try to, participate in these kinds of events. I try to try to be a good role model, try to do the right things, and definitely think I did have a lot of mentors though. Everybody that was willing to help me, was willing to listen to me. I was like, you have office hours, let me go and talk to you and see how I can maybe get an internship, maybe see how I can pass that next test, do all this. So if anybody was willing to just be like, say a yes, I was always seeking that yes so somebody can help me. Because even if somebody was like, and I'm always trying to be very, persuasive in a way. When people would say no to me, I'm like, let me ask it a different way so I can try to get that yes. Again, it was like with different roles. So for Disney too, it was my, I applied 3 times at Disney. So yeah, whenever I was not able to move forward with one of the roles, I was able to find something else very similar to that. So I'm like, well, let me try this instead. So definitely don't be afraid of the no's. And if somebody does give you a no, be like, how can I ask it differently so I can get to my end goal anyway?
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I think we're gonna close it down here. We wanted to give a special thanks and thank you so much. You guys are very impressive women, and we are so thankful that you guys are here to mentor all of us. And then also special thanks to JK2 Scenic for sponsoring the food. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.